Good morning, all, and welcome to Trade Live and Free. I am joined, Learn to Trade, sorry, Live and Free. I am joined this morning by Chloe. How you doing, Chloe?
Yeah, really good. Thanks, Ash. Really good.
Okay, well, let's just make sure I'm in the proper area here. There we go. Just making sure that we got the chat room open. Right, let's share some screen. An interesting dive to the downside towards the end of the session yesterday. How telling that is, I'm not sure. We are getting a bit of a boost right now. I'm not sure if we're getting a boost from the fact that, off the back of the fact that, who is it? Looks like it is Larry Kudlow was suggesting that the US-China trade deal is absolutely fine. I think earlier in the week, Donald Trump's intimation that it doesn't really matter, I think probably put people on the back foot a little bit, thinking that maybe the deal could be under some sort of jeopardy. I don't think it is. Trump is definitely taking aim at China, but I don't think the trade deal's under too much jeopardy. The big thing is that the Capitol Hill deal that they're just not getting done. They're really struggling to get that one done. And if it goes on too long, I think there's a fear that it could actually drag right into the end of the summer. I'd quite like a short on the FTSE, if I'm honest. I'd like a short on the FTSE. I'd like a short on the Dow probably as well. The FTSE is holding on here, but it does now look like we're just starting to enter into this pattern here. May well have broken through. And if we close up here in the next couple of minutes, it would suggest that we have broken through. So there's still buying opportunities that are the best course of action right now, and that buying opportunity does come in around about the 61.50. I'm still not keen. I'm still not keen on going along these markets. I think they are due a bit of a pullback, or I don't know whether we call it a correction, but certainly due a bit of a rest. My goodness me, UK GDP. So Britain's economy shrinking by 20%, and that may well just encourage some lawmakers in this country to do something. So maybe that's why we're getting a bit of a boost right now. But we'll have a look through some of these others as well. Open in about 2 minutes. Have you got anything really urgent, Chloe? You may well be muted if you are talking.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
There you go.
I was just saying I haven't got anything urgent, but I can go through some stuff or wait for you to get through yours.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to be a bit of a day for me of just waiting anyway. I think I am quite bearish on these markets now. I'd like to see some genuine, a genuine pattern break, really, if I'm going to be trading this one in the direction that I'd like. And the direction I'd like is to the downside, only for a short period. Let's just have a quick look at what the overall picture is on some of these global equities, and why I'm keen on the downside, and why I can't do anything. If I'm keen on the downside, I can't do anything here, unless I'm looking to go long to go short, which isn't the worst thing in the world. So 61.50 is not a bad area to try and get along. So if you guys are quite keen on this market still, coming down here would probably provide a buying opportunity. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's no suggestion from me that that this market is coming down at this stage. I just think that we're kind of maybe due something, and I'd quite like to wait and see if I get something. And I don't want to get caught into a long just in case it's a bit late. But it doesn't look like it is. So nothing wrong with a long at all if that's what you if you want to trade. Good morning, Swee. And I want to see a break of this line here. So what I'm after And it's really one of those situations that that trades are available, but the trade on offer I've got my doubts about. So I want to see this breakdown here, and if I get a trend line break, then that's going to give me the signal that I need. And I'd only wait for one on a 1 hour chart, and then I'd probably trade some sort of retest of this area. So the price I'm after is around about the 61.30 area. Now this is a buy area now, so if you want to go long here, not the worst trade at all, but actually a pretty good trade really. There's not a bad setup at all, and I am actually ignoring a setup to the upside because that is an upside setup. But my belief is that we're going to run out of steam, so I'm going to wait for the shorts to show itself if I can. It may not. This market may continue to stretch its legs to the upside. It's been pretty confident up to this point, and doesn't look like there's any huge driver to the downside at this stage. So I've got no reason to be looking short, but I'd like to see if that one would appear. So I'm looking at around about the 61.30 area, and that's going to need to be broken first, and then I'll see if it can come back again and give me an opportunity. But let's see why, so some of the technical reasons why I think this market may just start getting a bit tired up here. And I flipped really to my longer term timeframes on some of these. And what I have on the FTSE is just a few trend lines along, some of these areas that look to me like we may well be on our retest leg of a move to the downside on the broader picture. So on this weekly chart, it looks to me like this is a retest area of a downtrend at this stage, and until we break through what looks like 6,200, it's going to look like a retest, and until we break through 6,300, it's going to look like it could still be under stress for a downtrend. So so those two particular price points are really important. The market needs to take out both of them, but certainly taking out this this level here is going to suggest that this could be. Whoops. Let's get rid of that. It's going to suggest that this could well be a falling wedge kind of pattern going on here, and the falling wedge is bullish. So we'd probably be looking at something like this. And at that point, I think the longs would have to be taken. I don't think I could ignore it any longer. That'd be our kind of our price target at that point, which leads us, and it depends on when breakout happens, But if it was to happen this week, it might be just a shade higher. But it looks like it would lead us somewhere near this area down. It looks like this horizontal area here. So we could get all the way up to 6,800 if we break through this 63. But I think we're okay to wait for the 63 breakthrough before we have to do anything. Now, other barometers that I will be checking and that I am checking at this particular period are the other indices, the other world indices. So firstly, the Dow I find of most interest as people rotate out of the NASDAQ and move into some of these growth stocks. The Dow's had a fantastic run. But the Dow is, and there's, you can see the same level in two different ways. The Dow really very, very close to touching the previous breakouts from the upside. So while the Dow was moving in an uptrend last year, this was the very, very last point of structure where the Dow needed to hold, and we've really come back to test that structure. So inevitable that there's going to be a little bit of selling going on here, because there would have been a lot of people that would have been long at this particular point, and all they really want to do now is after seeing a big downdrift to the, after seeing a big move to the downside, all they'll want to do is just kind of clear their position. So there will probably be sort of a bit of profit taking, I would have thought, at this particular price. So that's why the Dow is potentially looking at a bit lower there. And also we see yesterday's bar didn't end up quite as bearish as I would have liked to take a signal. But it is a doji, so there's a bit of indecision going on up here. So we might see the same kind of thing today, depending on what some of those announcements are for the rest of the day. So the Dow looks to me like it could be a little bit weaker, potentially. It hasn't really got there yet, but there's a potential for some weakness there. And the Nasdaq, which is really the one that's in the most trouble, has already started its moves to the downside. On some of these shorter term time frames. And if we are going to get a bit of a correction, the Nasdaq is probably the number one candidate. So if you like the short, yeah, that's right, Lewis. That's right. So Larry Williams is saying that the S&P is down on the 12th of August, which is today. You're absolutely right. Now, obviously, that's a completely that's a seasonal pattern that he's talking about there. And we can't really bring the seasonals in until we have some fundamental reasons or technical reasons to trade. But the fact that he's saying that, and we might have some problems on Capitol Hill, certainly start to just add to the picture a little bit that there could be an opportunity for some downside. So, yeah, I'd agree with that, and I'd be looking at the same thing that the market could actually be under a bit of pressure here. And to say that the Nasdaq looks like the most obvious candidate, even though we do have the head and shoulders on this 4-hourly chart really already have played out. If we were to sort of like think of the measured move on that, then we could even maybe bring it. Would it be there? Possibly. Yeah, I'd say that would be fine to sort of like say that the head and shoulders pattern's there, which brings us to this point down here. So it's played out to the pip pretty much before a retracement. So the head and shoulders pattern now is kind of has done its thing. So we gotta leave that one alone. But if we like the Nasdaq, then I would suggest we're probably looking at testing the lows and the trend line break again. So 1160 on the Nasdaq would be of interest as a price point. Before that, no major interest, but I think we could look at a short in the Nasdaq, and I might even, and I wouldn't be adverse to putting an order there, but it's a long way away from price right now. So let's see if we can get up there first, and we'll also see if there are anything else there. The daily pivot looks like the perfect spot on the Nasdaq. So it's around about 1156. So 1156, 1160. That looks like the perfect spot to take a trade. So we wanted to come up there, and maybe you want to eyeball it a little bit and see if there's a bit of a turnaround from that particular point, which we can do. Now that might not be until the US session, but we'll see if there's an opportunity before that. Don't know if there will be. So that would be a preference. Now just check the S&P. And the reason that the Nasdaq's a preference is because it seems to me like there seems to be some rotation coming out of, the US Open should be interesting. You're right, Lewis. That's what I'm hoping for. But the US, it looks like people are coming out of these kind of like big growth tech stocks and these big name tech stocks and moving into a little bit of the smaller growth stocks, and they are potentially now rotating away from the Nasdaq into things like the Dow and the S&P. The Nasdaq does have a side problem with China, the China US situation as well, with TikTok and Microsoft being under some kind of battle. There's a bit of a battle going on there. So the Nasdaq does have its own issues that kind of prime it for the best one that we should look for a short at this particular stage. Now, I'm not suggesting a big short in any of this stuff. I'm just suggesting that the market might get just a little bit tired here and might be due some sort of correction, which we can trade and maybe even go long off the back of it with maybe a freebie. I mean, that would be the ultimate if we can go short here on the sorry, that's the S&P. The ultimate would be short around about the daily pivot on the Nasdaq at the 1160, but then long back down here. 10,460 would be a fantastic scenario for us to be in. So we'll see if that particular situation does become available to us. And the S&P, not as negative a bar as it looked like it was going to be at the end of the session. It was all the way down here, so we had a big sell-off towards the last 10 minutes of the session. It started to retrace a little bit, but fairly negative, as you can see. Bang, bang, straight down. But then the end of the session, it just started to recover a little bit, and the S&P is now moving back to the upside, but maybe some indication that it's also running out of a little bit of steam. And if we do want to, focus on patterns at all, then we do have a potential head and shoulders in the offing, and that's that. Looking at that left and right shoulder, then the left shoulder certainly looks like it is much deeper at this stage. So that would probably put the right shoulder somewhere about there, which is, well, that's looking until tomorrow actually. So we might see some fluctuation if Larry Williams says from the 12th, then he may be a day early. So we might see this just develop itself. It could be towards the end of the day. It might be still a shade shallow, but if there is any kind of balance and symmetry between the left and right shoulder, then it's probably going to take us into tomorrow instead for a potential short in the S&P. So I'm looking for a hold today, a bit of a sideways day, not too much happening, and then we'll see if we get anything that could drive the market down. Now, before I get to Chloe, the last thing that we should really check out is what's been going on today. And this is the thing, these second weeks, the second week in trade always seems a bit trickier to me, because it's just so light on news. Official cash rate was kept on hold at the RBNZ overnight. Didn't read the statement, but we need to get to that at some point. GDP month over month on the UK was a rise of 8.7%. So there was an initial assumption that there'd be a jump there, but preliminary GDP quarter on quarter still incredibly ugly. Previous at negative 2.2, and this is only green because it's beaten analyst expectations, but hideous number, minus 20.4%. Industrial production, actually not too bad. Manufacturing production, also not too bad. But business investments where some of the problems is lying, so people are keeping hold of their money. Construction output seems okay as well. I mean, there's some green shoots in there by the looks of things. So GDP maybe in our third and fourth quarter, I would suspect actually would be a lot healthier than that. And then a few little bits and pieces later on. FOMC Kaplan speaking later. Yeah, we might even be looking into next week before we're after the short. I don't know, but nothing to do as yet anyway. So I am just on hold for right now. But let's have you got anything, any currencies that you are looking at, Chloe?
Always got currencies I'm looking at, Ash. Always.
Oh, great.
Let me just grab the screen.
Oh, gold as well. Geez, didn't even mention gold. What an absolute spanking that's had.
It certainly has.
Geez, unbelievable, really. I mean, for how something can turn around so drastically is incredible, and that is the market, isn't it? You can be in absolute euphoria as you trade the best trend on the planet for the year, and then all of a sudden, you're trading, you're buying the dip yet again. You've got this buy the dip mentality and strategy going on, and it just rips straight through your dip.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It is probably a bigger pullback. Let's have a look at that actually. Let me get gold up. So look at that.
Geez, yeah. Well,
we've had such a massive run on gold, and basically all in one day yesterday. It's come all the way from the top there, all the way down to the monthly pivot. So that's a massive move. It's much bigger than any of the retracements really that we've seen throughout this uptrend. I mean, even when we saw the big moves down from back in March, they weren't this big.
No.
You know, we had a lot of selling over the course of a couple of weeks, but there wasn't one single day really that had that much of a fall. But as you say, Ash, it's you know, people have to take profit somewhere, and this is it. People have been in this long enough. They've made their money. They're taking their profit, and this is the result.
I mean, the bounce back overnight looks pretty impressive, doesn't it?
It is, yeah. And I was just about to say, it doesn't necessarily mean that this uptrend is over. In fact, we are still in an uptrend on this daily time frame. So definitely doesn't mean that the trend is over, but I'd certainly be hesitant to buy on the back of such a bearish day. So if we look at the lower time frames here, we've had price rebound above the monthly pivot, which is great, but it's going to take me a little while to start to see bullish cyclicity on any time frame really. 15-minute obviously is going to be the first to pick up, but I do need to see that bullish cyclicity. I need to see evidence of continued buying coming into the market, rather than just seeing that prices hit a level and thinking, oh, that's a great place to jump back into this uptrend.
Yes, I like the left shoulder there, Chloe. I like the left shoulder head pattern that's going on there. So you know, we want a sustained period, as you say, of a bit of buying, and maybe we get a really clean right shoulder coming out of that, which I think should potentially provide a buying opportunity.
Yeah, it could be, and hopefully that right shoulder would be another test of the monthly pivot, maybe. And then that would give really nice price action to get back into this. But until that happens, just going to be a case of wait and see, really. It's all well and good having a fundamental bias on a currency or a you know, a metal or whatever it is you're trading, but it is about waiting for the right technical setup, because that's the way that you get the right reward to risk, and you know, you can enter your trades more stress-free if you've got the right technical setup. So really interesting to look at, but I'm definitely not jumping in right now. And as you say, Ash, some kind of chart pattern, some kind of reversal chart pattern to show us that this market has gone from this downtrend, which, as you can see, is pretty spectacular, really, back to an uptrend. And if that doesn't happen, then I'm not in gold anymore.
If that is the fascinating one. So we can wait on gold. Sounds like a good plan.
Wait on gold. To be honest with you, Ash, the currency pairs that I'm mostly looking at on the shorter time frames at the moment are the yen pairs, which I haven't actually traded much on the yen pairs recently. It's been all about the Aussie dollar and crosses for me lately, but I'm actually quite bullish on most of the yen pairs. Again, to be honest with you, it is a case of waiting for the right technical setup. I'm finding it a little frustrating, I will be brutally honest, because it looks to me like I might miss a retracement here and price could just continue upwards, which would be a shame, but I have to be patient and wait for my setup. So CAD yen, if we just look at the daily time frame there, just got this uptrend starting. I've got a higher low here, just broken to a higher high yesterday. So I've got my uptrend on that daily time frame. So all I'm looking for is an opportunity in on a lower time frame. And obviously there was an opportunity earlier on the hourly. Quite often on the Aussie pairs and the yen pairs, Kiwi pairs, things like that, the opportunities on the hourly time frames do happen while I am fast asleep, which is unfortunate. It's why I liked traveling to Singapore so much last year. But so be it. I'm going to be waiting for a retracement and then another opportunity into this. The good thing about this on the 15-minute time frame is it's not yet overextended. So what I don't want to be looking for in the mornings is a trend that's already happened and jumping in at the end because I feel like I've missed out on something. That is the worst kind of trading. So I like to look out for things before they've happened, and CAD yen hasn't moved off yet far enough to be overextended. So I'm looking out for that one. Swiss yen, unfortunately, that has already happened. That is definitely a move that has taken place today. And we've reached this level of resistance just up here. So price is really struggling up here. I've got a couple of options. First of all, I can wait for price to break through this level and then come back down, retest that level, and then look for my strategy entry at that point. Or I can wait for price to retrace down here and perhaps coincide with this level around here, which is also a level of support, turned resistance, could turn support again. The problem with that particular entry is it would be getting me into price within a range. A retracement down to the bottom here, I could only safely trade up towards the top of this range. I couldn't then assume that price is definitely going to break to the upside. Just because my bias is bullish doesn't mean that price is going to continue on that way. So my preference would be to see price break through this horizontal level at the top here, where you know, just above where price currently is, then come back down and give me my trading opportunity. So I'll be keeping an eye on Swiss yen. Euro yen is another one. I actually prefer Euro yen because I don't have that range and I don't have that very, very strong movement happening so far today. So it's been a lot more gradual. Gives me a lot more possibility for cyclicity to evolve here and perhaps just come down, give me a higher low that I'll be looking for to trade. So Euro yen also on my watch list. Pound yen is another one. Pound yen, pretty spiky price action at the moment, but again, I've got a bit of an uptrend here on the 15-minute. If we just have a look at the daily, I always like to look at the daily timeframes to get my idea of direction. It does look like it's pushing forward. It's not, there isn't a chart pattern here or anything I can take a strong direction from, but the overall direction is upwards. And I don't have an awful lot of resistance in the way right now in terms of trading on a lower time frame. I've got a little bit of space here. So if I can take advantage of it, I would say that I would be aiming up around the weekly R2 level if I were to manage to get a trade on pound yen. So again, it's just going to be a case of waiting for a retracement, hopefully down to around these previous highs here, and then waiting for my strategy entry. The final yen thing to point out, just before I move on to the Kiwi pairs, is dollar yen. And dollar yen I had been bearish on based on the daily time frame a couple of weeks ago, and that's now completely changed. So on the daily time frame, I've got my higher low, I've got my higher high now. So definitely bullish on the daily time frame. The slight reservation I have about dollar yen is what we've been seeing since kind of mid-February onwards, since March, let's say, is we've been seeing price break out for a few days at a time, 2 days, maximum 3 days really, and then consolidate. We've seen that repeatedly. Let me just see if I can annotate this a little bit. So we've seen, for example, a breakout here, followed by consolidation. Consolidation here, a breakout, a bit of consolidation for a few days. Over here, we had a break to the upside, followed by a couple of weeks of consolidation. So that leads me to anticipate that we've had a few days of breakout, a few days of long trading. yes, price could continue to the upside, but also we could get another consolidation here while price just kind of catches its breath and decides what the next move is. So I don't want to just assume that price is going to continue with an uptrend here. It could well start ranging again or consolidating. The other thing about dollar yen is that so far today it's already had quite a move. So we have to be very careful about getting into anything overextended. I would say the best opportunity would have been just before this show started over here, because it's a test of this previous high level and also shown itself to be some support as well. Now I need that cyclicity to continue, so I need another higher high to show me that this move is not over. Then I can take another retracement. If I don't get a higher high at this point, then I'm not interested, unfortunately, even though my bias is bullish currently. So that's the yen pairs. It's just going to be a case of waiting for the right one. I'm definitely not going to be trading all of them. I'm just going to be keeping an eye across those yen pairs, see if any of these retracements and pullbacks happen to an area that I'm happy with, and then I'll be looking at taking a long trade. The other two that I'm focusing on the intraday time frames, or the lower time frame. So 15-minute time frame is the lowest time frame that I personally trade on my strategy, although one can trade it down to the 5-minute time frame. But for me, there are a couple of Kiwi pairs. So pound Kiwi, I am bullish on. The Kiwi is suffering a little bit lately, and so it is a case of finding something that is doing better than the Kiwi. And pound's not doing too badly at the moment. So this is what I'm looking at here. Daily time frame, uptrend. We don't have any resistance from moving averages in the way. And in terms of potential move here, in terms of chart pattern, we've got a move from the bottom to the top there. We've got a slight retracement. That could go quite a way further. I mean, that would be best case scenario, but there certainly is room for more movement to the upside. We're definitely not overextended yet. So again, it's just going to be a case of waiting for the right setup at the right price point. I'd say a little bit lower. I'd say down here is really where I'm looking for. So I'm looking for price to pull back down here and then to potentially take off again to the upside. So that's pound Kiwi. And then there is Kiwi Swiss as well, which I'm looking at, which probably looks to be the most promising one of all, I think, because that retracement has already started. I've got good cyclicity. Let's have a look at the daily time frame. Definitely not overextended. And what I do have is I've got a break through this level here. A break through that level. So that was a level of support. We've definitely broken through, we've retested, and price is potentially heading further downwards. There is some support a little bit further down, potentially. So I've got another level of what was resistance, could come support over here. So it's not necessarily a particularly long-term trading idea, but certainly for an intraday setup, there's plenty of reward to risk in there. So I'm just waiting for a pullback. Again, it's always about finding the right level. So I'm looking for a pullback to around about this level here. And then I'll be looking for a possible short opportunity. So those are the main things that I'm looking out for on the 15-minute time frame. And I'd say this Kiwi Swiss is probably the closest to setting up at the moment. And just a couple of things that I want to go through on the hourly as well. Excuse my croaky voice, must be the heat. Did I complain about the heat yet, Ash, today?
No, you haven't mentioned the heat. I thought it was meant to be a bit of a it's meant to be thunderstorms today, but that's now been swept away.
I wish.
Yeah, no longer here.
Anyway, on the hourly time frame, I am looking at Aussie dollar. Those of you who follow me trading on the Trader Talk Radio Income Creator Show will know I've been bullish Aussie dollar for a long time. But along with seasonals and technicals at the moment, it does look like that uptrend could be coming to an end. And so I'm waiting for a setup. And it looks to me like the hourly is pretty promising in terms of cyclicity. I've got a nice downtrend here. I've got a couple of levels that I could look out for retracements. First of all would be this level here. And second of all would be a little bit higher up, in which case I would probably be looking perhaps on the 4 hourly instead. But Aussie dollar to the downside is something that I am going to consider. It's not necessarily a long-term view. It's just if I find a good setup, then I will take it and I will trade it to the next level of support, which for us down here, or for me at least, would be down to the monthly pivot. I wouldn't be looking to trade an intraday trade lower down than the monthly pivot or through the monthly pivot. I would anticipate some reaction there, and therefore I'd be perfectly happy to get into a trade around this point. Looks like it could be maybe a 4-to-1, maybe even 5-to-1 down to that monthly pivot. So that is what I would be looking at there. Euro Kiwi is another of the Kiwi pairs. Euro doing quite well at the moment. Kiwi not doing so well. So Euro Kiwi is another one to keep an eye out for. And again, it's not overextended, which is what I like. It has been in an upwards run on the daily time frame, but it's not been ridiculous. We haven't had any massive buyer bars or anything like that. It's just been steadily moving to the upside and continues to do so. So that's another thing that I will be looking out for, potential long opportunities. I've got a horizontal level here. That is a really nice point to look out for a retracement to. So I would love the price to come back down here, retest that level, and then I'll be looking for price to take off again from there. So that's another one that I'm looking at. I can only apologize really that I don't have any trades to jump into right now. Sometimes that's the way, and especially because the trends are kind of either changing or pulling back at the moment. So
yeah, I'm with you, Chloe. I think it's it's one of those things really. No apology necessary, because I think that we are in one of those. We're in a bit of a hiatus. The market has been so. I mean, specifically the global equities. They've been so keen, of recent time. But we only need to look at gold to kind of see how dangerous that a phase that we could be in. And it's a bit like the changing of a tide, isn't it? That's the time that you don't want to be in the water. Going at high tide, you know where you're at. Going at low tide, you know where you're at. But when it starts to change like this, then there's all sorts of cross currents that can really mess up what you're trying to do. And I think we just need to wait for just a cleaner picture. And we know which direction we'd like to go in, which I think is the first port of call. And then it's just waiting to see if we can get the correct setups and the correct turning point in the market. But it's the VIX hasn't picked up. Volatility has picked up. I know the VIX is a volatility indicator, but in many respects, people still need to buy into it. So it's not going to change aggressively. But the VIX hasn't picked up sufficiently enough to suggest that we're going to get a massive of volatility. So it doesn't suggest that anything that moves to the downside will be hugely significant, but it is suggesting at this stage, not the VIX, but the markets themselves, they are suggesting that some profit taking would go on in these areas. The S&P got to pretty close to its record highs again yesterday. So some of these, a pullback from this area would be, I think more sensible to look for rather than jumping in. So I think it's okay. I think for us to kind of analyze this chart and say let's keep our hands in our pockets for a little while is absolutely fine, and that's what I'm going to be doing here, just until I see what I need to see. And just looking at some of these, there's a few questions in here, a few comments in the questions about Alan saying time to go long gold. I think we've covered that, Alan. I wouldn't mind gold with an inverted head and shoulders on the 15 because gold has been in such a strong move to the upside. I think there will probably be some people that are still quite keen on it. Seems like the dollar is picking up a little bit because of the issues on Capitol Hill. And maybe some of the issues in China. So I don't think the shine's been taken off gold. I agree with Chloe. I think that the uptrend on the daily chart is under stress, but it hasn't changed. So I think we can look for longs in gold and just wait to the time isn't right. So specifically, you say time to go long gold. That would be a no, but certainly looking for opportunities to go long would be a yes. I think we should look for that. Emmanuel saying that Julian mentioned gold going down during the weekend analysis last week, and if you want to get somebody that knows about this kind of thing, it is Jules. So Jules, looking for some weakness in the market and it happening so aggressively. I don't know whether he would have known that it would have come down so aggressively, but if Jules is saying that, then we should always sit up and listen.
And I would made it happen, Ash.
He probably did.
Sold all his gold.
He probably did. Everybody's listening to him and selling it out. But what it suggests to me is that if gold does bounce, it still could be under a bit of pressure. So it would be wise to kind of track it up on shorter term timeframes. Dennis mentioning silver as well, which I prefer. I have to say, if I'm going to be trading either of them, then silver would be much more interesting to me. Orlando is in his short in gold. We know that from yesterday, so he's going to be a happy chappy today. Goodness me, you got a chart of silver there, Chloe?
Oh yeah, let me just get that up.
Actually, silver looks quite interesting as well.
So that's the daily on silver.
Yeah, what do we got on some of these shorter term time frames?
So
hasn't touched the monthly pivot.
It hasn't, no. Down on the 15.
Similar.
We've got very similar. So we've got this, it is not as clean a head and shoulders maybe as the gold one, but definitely got a kind of messy left shoulder over here, head down here. Looks like the price is already taking off without forming that right hand shoulder at the moment.
Yeah, do you know what? I would look at that and say daily pivot would be a great shorting opportunity because the daily pivot's practically on the neckline, and it might even be with that one. The neckline might be, looking at that left shoulder neckline might be where you see the 11th, the high on the 11th, and then the high on the 12th. Looks like we might even be looking at an angled neckline. So so this one could go, if you draw a trend line from the high of the 11th to the high of through the high of the 12th, closing high, that is.
Closing high, sorry.
No problem.
Around there.
Yeah, so that could easily be a neckline, and it's still dipped down. So I wouldn't be too confident saying we break the daily pivot, we're going long. I definitely want to see silver above 27 before I was too confident for a long. That to me looks like a shorting opportunity still. And could you duplicate that line and and bring it down to the lows and see what that looks like? See if that does suggest our neckline down there.
Ash, you're talking about much more complicated terminology than I am.
Oh yeah, let's just use that. Yeah,
duplicate the line. No idea how to do that. Let's do it this way. Can I do it this way?
Yeah, just bring that top one down.
Let me see. Can't get hold of it. There we go.
Yeah, up there. Yeah, look at that. That to me looks like that is about the neckline. So I would be aiming up there before I'd be looking at a short in silver. Not even the daily pivot would interest me now. I'd want to see that touched. And the good thing about that is that if that's touched, then we might even get a genuine reversal signal that touches that, comes back under the daily pivot, and then the short would be on. Only down to WS1, but that suggests to me that that silver would be a shorting opportunity for the session. and then as the time passes, if it can continue to hold WS1, then the long would become of interest.
Yeah, so lots of things to look out for. I've started to call it my roadmap, Ash. I like to draw myself a roadmap of the things that I'm looking out for, and then just sit and wait for them. If they happen, they happen. If the car goes off in a different direction, then so be it. But that's basically what I've been doing today. Is just drawing myself a little roadmap, keeping an eye on things that I need to keep an eye on. But because these trends have been going on for so long, if for whatever reason things I expect to happen don't happen, it's no big deal. I'll just wait until the trends resume properly.
Which they will. Which they will.
Absolutely will.
And you know, this is the thing. When we get an explosive move, you know, as we've seen in silver and gold, then it's difficult to know where the high of that explosive move is. But eventually, the explosion just gets exhausted, and I wonder whether we're starting to see that happen on some of these. A bit of a turning point. Pound Aussie. Did you look at that Clo daily chart for a long for Sanjay?
Let me have a look at Pound Aussie daily chart for a long. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't fit with my strategy. And I wouldn't be trading that necessarily on the daily time frame right now, but it looks all right for long on the intraday time frames for sure. Yeah.
I've got do you know what my slight issue with the pound after seeing such hideous numbers from the GDP? I mean, difficult really, isn't it? Because the GDP is a backward-looking indicator, and you know everybody kind of knows that the GDP was going to be fairly poor, and it came out as bad probably as people expected. So you wouldn't trade the pound short off that number. And those production numbers, industrial production, it looks like there is a bit of a pickup in UK economic activity. So because of that, I could make a case for a long pound. I don't think I could make a case for a long pound against the Aussie here. Yeah, it looks all right. Actually, it looks all right. I think it's a bit early. You know, looking at that, it looks to me like it could be a little bit early for a long. I'll be looking for a decent looking, you know, inverted head and shoulders. It's going to be complex now because that head has got two dips. But if the inverted head and shoulders was to make itself available, then yes, I would look for a pound long. Probably the monthly pivot would hold. So that area there looks like a decent price point.
Oh.
Yeah, so I wouldn't mind, you know, a speculative long, maybe an order put in at the monthly pivot wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. We haven't tested it yet this month. I know we're only the 12 days in, but we haven't tested that area yet. So my personal thought on that, Sanjay, would be, can we test the monthly pivot and reject it? Because if we do, then yes, that to me would be more of a green light to go. Until we get that to that particular scenario where we were to test and reject the monthly pivot, then I don't think I'd be quite as keen to be trading the pound Aussie long. It's kind of it's a bit of a question mark of whether we're going to go higher until we've done that. So timing for me again is a bit early. Aussie dollar, Emmanuel saying, has broken the trend. Let's have a look at that. You got the Aussie dollar broken the trend. Not yet, for my mind. No.
Actually hasn't yet. Hasn't broken the trend yet.
Let's look at. Can we explain that a bit as well? Why not?
Yeah, because I'm just going to get the draw tool up. So the trend, we're looking at higher highs and higher lows. Excuse my drawing, it's not the most accurate, but you'll get the picture. That low, we've got a low test bar here. So this is the low, just here. We then go to a higher high. I've got to move my little box out of the way. Go to a higher high, just about. And we haven't yet broken down below this low. So for me, that trend is over. once the monthly pivot is taken out. I say over. I'm trading long on Aussie dollar at the moment. I'm in a couple of trades long, and my stop loss is just at this level beneath the monthly pivot, because that for me is where we get a lower low, and therefore I'm no longer convinced that the uptrend is continuing. And then I would need to see something like that before I start to trade short. So,
yeah.
So that for me is the position I'm in. Yes, it does look bearish, but that doesn't mean that the downtrend is over yet. The downtrend is over when the definition of trend is broken, and the definition of uptrend is higher highs and higher lows. Until we get lower highs and lower lows, the uptrend isn't over yet for me.
Yeah, and the way you drew that as well, it was a nice clear looking M topping pattern. So Emmanuel, I think what you're looking at is something which has got the potential to turn here, and that's really good because you're ahead of the game. The dollar has shown some signs of life, and the dollar index has been at a crazy level for a potential turn for quite some time. And that M topping pattern is suggesting that this is under stress. The Aussie dollar is under stress. So you could be ahead of the game, and I would just wait until you see I mean, you trade the wave rider, the daily wave rider, I suspect, and that weekly pivot is still stepped up. So that as a minimum indicator would suggest that we've got a few sessions to wait before we get some genuine indication of whether we should be looking at the short in the Aussie dollar. But we are seeing some indication across the price points: silver weakening, gold weakening. Those both are traded against the dollar, so we are starting to see some dollar strength come into play. Pretty sure I'm still in a euro dollar trade, I think. Yes, I am. I'm still in a euro dollar trade from 8:30. I got in 118.32. I think my entry is, and that's still again that's kind of showing a bit of a potential for an M topping pattern on a 4-hour chart. It probably will spring up one more time. So the dollar's maybe showing some signs of life without the life being absolutely put into its lungs just yet. So, indications are that we should be looking for these setups to maybe show themselves, but they're just not there just yet.
Ash, I'm just going to leave you on this point. Actually, I've got to go a little bit early today because I'm taking my car for service. But I just want to leave you on this point that it's not necessary to pick the tops and the bottoms of the market. So it's really, really good to anticipate what you think might happen, and to say on this, looks like the trend is on Aussie is over. Well, you could well be right. This could well come all the way down and start a downtrend. But it doesn't mean it's necessary to jump into a sell right now, because the important thing that we're looking for is higher probability and consistency. So picking the tops and bottoms is not high probability, and it's not going to give you consistent results. Whereas taking a look at this and saying, I think that this is eventually going to go short, where is my setup that meets all of my rules? Then that's a good thing to do. So we don't need to pick tops and bottoms. We don't need to say Aussie dollar is going short now suddenly. But we do need to just look at this and say, where is my trend over, and what do I need to see happen in order for me to trade short with my strategy, with high probability? And that's basically the thing that I try and do all the time, really. That's trend trading, basically.
Yeah, patience is the key.
Absolutely. So Ash, I'm afraid I'm going to have to say goodbye because my car is due in for service. These exciting times that we lead, it's going to be the excursion of the week for me.
We'll go and enjoy that, Chloe.
I'll get my mask and gloves ready.
Oh yeah. Get yourself prepared. And I will see you soon, maybe next week, or we'll
definitely.
Anyway.
Yeah. All right. Cheers, guys. Cheers, Ash.
Fantastic. See you later, Chloe. Bye-bye. Right, let's share this screen again with you guys. I need to be out of here fairly soon as well. The FTSE 100 has taken a decent move to the upside, probably a selling opportunity at 62.06. But let's just be a little bit careful, just in case it wants to burst through that level. It takes out this high today, then we can look for the long. But until it takes out that high, I still think there's a potential for a shorting opportunity with the FTSE, and we have had a pretty good run off the back of those numbers. So what else? So Jimmy, if gold closes today as it is, would it be a valid setup to buy tomorrow? Let's have a look at that. Yes, it would. Yes, it would. Some of the problem is this area with gold. That's the issue, is the 1955, and that's not that far away. So we'd have to go down a few. Oh, you meant silver? Okay, sorry, buddy. Sorry. Yep. Yeah. XAG. Okay. Yeah, again, it would be a valid setup. It would be quite wide. You'd have to get to the high. It would be a valid setup. What I prefer to see is a trade on the shorter term time frames after seeing this. So let's say we took this daily bar as our signal. And I might be able to give you an example of this in a moment, but let's say we took the daily bar as a signal for a setup for some further upside. We'd mark off our level down here. We'd probably have to mark off this level here, and we mark off our high here, and you can see that the high has got this this horizontal level that it would need to break through. And then we go to our 4 hourly. Now we can see that the daily pivot is likely to show. It's unlikely for silver to look like that, but let's say it does. The daily pivot will move by the next day, and it would probably be below price, which would be better. Now, if we can find an area on some of these shorter term time frames, yes, it would. And you know what? I would probably still stick with the same plan. If silver gave us a bar like that, I'd want to get in at 24.75. So I would use the daily bar as a signal that we are holding. But if I got in here instead, then I could actually get to the weekly pivot and take profit before I could get to my 1-to-1 before the highs, and it would be closer to a 2-to-1 by the time I get to my high. So I think it's a really good question, and I think it'd be a really good signal. So if it happens, if we're unable to get through this point, but this bar ends up looking like that, which it could, because what might happen throughout today is we might end up having a bit of a fluctuation of price here, where we come down, we go up, we come down, we go up, and then we might end up sort of like finishing at the high of the day. And if that was to happen, then the very next day I'd want to put an order in here with a stop below, maybe between the monthly. But well, you'd probably have to put it below the monthly pivot if you want to be hyper safe, because it could come down here and bounce off this low here, or it could come down and bounce off the monthly pivot. So stops will probably be down there, which is starting to negate the profit a little bit. Let's have a look what that would cost us. 20 up to around about 25. So it would still give you a 1-to-1, slightly better than a 1-to-1 by the time you get to the weekly pivot. So 24.75 would be my price point if we get a bar like that. But I wouldn't go in any more expensive than that. This would be too expensive. The 26.23 or 26.25, it'd be too expensive, because you've got to get all the way back to the highs and you're not even at a 1-to-1. In fact, you would be at a 1-to-1 if you go all the way back to the highs from where you'd enter. So the trade would not look anywhere near as attractive as it should do at that particular point. So so we'd have to use the daily bar as an indicator and not as a master candle, if you like, not as an entry. Emmanuel, you caught the FTSE bullish move yesterday on the hourly. Well done, mate. That's amazing. And it was an amazing move. So you've managed to catch. Yesterday. Oh, mate, that's brilliant. That's a really, really healthy trade there. So well done on that. That's what you want, right? You want to catch some of those genuine moves, and it might explode again today. I still think it's going to be under a bit of stress up here. Just looking to see whether I want to trade this actually. I'm quite keen to take a short here. Still about 10 pips. I'll probably take it at the high, or at least to test the high first. Don't know. Now let's wait for the downward movement and see if we can get some confirmation this is coming down. But I quite like that. You know, that area there as a short with a stop 20 pips higher would be okay. It's worth a punt, but it is a big punt because of the move to the upside is very, very strong, and that could quite easily continue. So it might not be wise. You know, we'd be trying to pick an absolute top price, which could be a bit dangerous. So I'm going to step out of that one. Right, I also need to get myself going. Because I've got another call coming in at 9. So I will bid you all adieu. And Jeff and I will be in tomorrow. And Jeff will also be in the US show later on. So we'll see if we can get some trades going on in the US session. I'd really like to see this market reversing and see if we can get some shorts on the table. But I don't know whether that's going to happen. It looks to me like the market is getting to that exhaustive kind of feel about it, but those exhaustions can last just a bit longer, and we might get another explosive move to the upside before a turn. So I've got to be very careful kind of calling a top here, but it does look like to me that it could be getting a little bit tired, and I will try and trade that if possible during the US session. Okay, guys, I will see you very, very soon. In fact, I will see you tomorrow at 5 to 8. Have a great rest of the day. See you then.